Are you ready to unlock your full potential and maximize your productivity? Look no further than Productivity Smarts, the ultimate audio podcast hosted by renowned productivity expert Gerald J. Leonard. In every episode, Gerald shares captivating stories, invaluable tips, and cutting-edge strategies that will transform the way you approach productivity. Whether you're looking to reduce stress, overcome overwhelm, or simply get more done in less time, Productivity Smarts has got you covered. But that's not all. You'll also gain inspiration from real-life success stories of individuals who have achieved greatness through productivity. Plus, you'll learn the latest tools, techniques, and habits that will help you achieve a new level of happiness and fulfillment in your personal and professional life. So why wait? Join us every week as we delve into the exciting world of productivity and help you unleash your full potential. Get ready to take your productivity to the next level with Productivity Smarts. As a productivity expert and host of the Productivity Smarts podcast, Gerald J. Leonard has been a proud supporter of Kiva since 2011. Kiva is a non-profit organization that helps entrepreneurs in third world countries access the capital they need to start or grow their businesses. By making a small loan through Kiva, you can help these entrepreneurs achieve their dreams, support their families, and contribute to their local economies. And with a repayment rate of over 96%, your loan can be re-lent to another entrepreneur once it's repaid, creating a ripple effect of positive change. So if you're looking for a meaningful way to make a difference in the world, consider making a loan through Kiva. With loans as small as $25, anyone can be a micro-lender and help change lives. Visit kiva.org to learn more and start lending today.
Today, I am speaking to Dr. Marina. She is an experienced OBGYN and dedicated educator with over 30 years of experience in women's health and fertility. She combines her medical expertise with a passion for evidence-based, holistic approach, naturally empowering individuals to optimize their reproductive health. Dr. Marina enjoys teaching and mentoring the next generation of medical professionals while staying at the forefront of reproductive science. Inspired by her journey as a mother, she shares cutting-edge insights and practical strategies to help readers navigate the complexities of conception and pregnancy. Through her compassionate and educational approach, she aims to demystify fertility and provide tools to build healthier and thriving families. Dr. Marina, how are you?
I'm fine, and I'm very happy to be here. How are you?
I'm doing well. Now, this is not the type of show I normally will do. And so you and I had to have a conversation like, okay, how does this work? After we talked, I thought, and I was talking to my wife about it this morning. I think this will be a really good episode because, one, it isn't the type of show that I would normally do, talk about fertility and speaking to doctors and OBGYN. But when you think about the impact that a lack of fertility or when things don't go well in that area of someone's life, it not only affects the woman in the story, but it also affects her partner, right? It affects the family. And it has a big impact on both of their overall productivity health, right? Because Productivity Smarts isn't just about a to-do list. It's really about this whole holistic approach to living a better life. And this is a big part of our life is family and kids and reproductive fertility and so on. And so that's why we're having this conversation today. So I'm really excited to have this conversation with you about that. Now, before we get started, though, I always ask my guests a couple of questions. And that is, what is your favorite style of music?
I'm really I have eclectic taste when it comes to music.
Okay.
But when you ask this question, it brings me back to my childhood because my favorite artist as a teenager, well, his name is no longer Cat Stevens, but it was Cat Stevens. And I think it's because I like ballads and storytelling. I just loved his music. He's now called Yusuf Islam, of course, but he still makes very similar music. And I just, something about it really makes me feel at peace. But there's many musics to love. So that's just one style, one genre.
Now, you do have a book coming out around this topic. And can you tell us a little bit more about your book? But our conversation is not going to really be about your book. It's going to be about the concepts. But I think a lot of the things that we're going to talk about are in your book.
Absolutely. We're talking about a different kind of productivity, producing humans rather than producing work or art. But it's still productivity. And I think many of the similar things have to go behind it because in order to produce healthy humans, you have to be healthy yourself. And I think the
Yeah.
same goes when you to be productive at work. It's hard to be productive if you're not healthy.
Yes.
And unfortunately, our populations are becoming less and less healthy,
Yeah.
often due to lifestyle issues, which we tend to forget about.
Exactly. Until it becomes a crisis, right?
That's
And
right.
then we go on, then we're going to the doctor, we're looking for the meds, we're looking for, the diet shot or the pill, or we're looking for, something along that line. And instead of holistically thinking about it ahead of time, we wait till we get into a crisis and then we start that process. And then maybe then we'll get on to a regimen of working out and a little bit being a little bit more healthier. So let me ask you, you frame fertility as a vital sign of overall health. How does reproductive health reflect someone's deeper capacity for focus, energy, and sustained productivity?
So, really, vital signs, the ones that we talk about normally, are things like blood pressure, pulse, temperature.
Right.
They describe, the state that the human body is in.
Right.
But really, fertility is should be considered a vital sign as well because it's a very good reflection of your overall state of health. And if you're not healthy, you're going to have issues with fertility. So if you want to backtrack, because many people wait for the crisis, as you were mentioning, before
Yeah.
addressing the issue, and think back a little bit to lifestyle and what you could improve, there's many things you can do to improve your fertility. And it will also improve your overall health and your longevity. Unfortunately, our society is really expecting magical answers, like the pill that will solve the problem. But
Right.
really, the pill is not going to solve the problem. What's going to solve the problem is you getting enough sleep, you eating a good diet, you moving your body, you reacting to stress in a positive way.
Right.
And I really emphasize those things. Unfortunately, our medical system does not. It's more
Yeah.
of a sort of naturopathic approach. But I think we need to look at that too, because it's all part of our health.
Yeah.
It's not just one or the other.
Right. I was talking with another doctor on a previous show, and we were talking about just like the holistic medicine concept. And I think it was like around World War I, World War II, where because of all of the casualties, the medical field focused a lot more on the physical aspect of health, right? Healing wounds and things like that. And the idea of the mind and the spirit just kind of all coming together along with the body, which used to be a part of the overall health regimen, kind of got dropped to the side. And then we got really focused on the physical, if you will. And, just when you think about a lot of the medications that are out there, they're kind of like a Kickstarter to get your body to do what it should be doing, right? Whether it's producing insulin or your heart regulating or reducing plaque. But you can naturally do those things if you think about them ahead of time and you don't need the pill because again, the pill is just almost like a placebo a little bit where it just kind of kickstarts the body to doing what it's supposed to do.
But unfortunately, it can have side effects that
Yes.
you can totally avoid if you avoid taking the pill. I think this approach goes back historically to the turn of the 19th century,
Yeah.
when the pharmaceutical industry hired somebody to review medical schools in the United States and Canada, and he wrote a report. It was called the Flexner Report. I think it was around 1910,
Oh wow.
and basically, the industry was very pharmaceutically aligned, and they started really pushing the idea is that pharmaceuticals were the answer to everything. And that's when they stopped, looking at more alternative things. And that's why the North American system is really based that way. But other cultures, other countries, Europe, still include the lifestyle approach to a much larger degree. I think we've
Exactly.
missed out on that.
Yeah, I think we really have, and we've become much more of a pharmaceutical first culture, if you will. Now, most productivity advice focuses on calendars and habits, and I talked about that earlier. but you focus on sleep, nutrition, stress reduction, environment first. Why is biological energy the real foundation of high performance?
So I think to perform well, you need to think clearly, you need to be inspired, you need to be able to have the time to do that. Calendars are important. I'm not saying they're not important, and,
Right,
and
right.
definitely time allotment is a very important thing. But if you're not thinking clearly because you're exhausted, if you're stressed and you haven't dealt with it, it's very hard to be productive in a positive way. So I think you have to go back and look at the basics
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I
start.
think that's really, yeah, it's really important. And what's interesting, I think when you have biological health and energy because you're sleeping well, you're dealing with your stress, even when you're in a stressful environment, you tend to do better, right?
Absolutely.
Can you talk
Absolutely.
about that a little bit? Like, outside could be going crazy. It's kind of like the tornado, but inside could be at peace when we are aligned.
Yes. Yes. So that's just a physiological way that we can improve our output and our thinking. You're more able to deal with stress when you're feeling well. But I think you also need an approach to recognize where your stress is coming from and try to deal with it appropriately. Everybody complains of stress, and obviously job stress is a big one. Some people are in jobs that they dislike because of perhaps their boss, their coworkers, or whatever, but they don't really think, like, what can I do to address this specific problem that will make me feel better and more comfortable with this whole situation?
Right.
And there's many things you can do, whether it's addressing a specific problem with a person, or perhaps recognizing that there isn't much you can do, but it's your interpretation. And perhaps
Yes.
in that case, meditation or just slow breathing or
Right.
just a massage might be the way to deal with it. And you need to be a bit practical and
Right.
and deal with it.
Well, speaking of stress and disruptors and things like that, what are the biggest invisible performance disruptors you see in your patients? Things like endocrine disruptors, poor sleep, or chronic stress that most professionals never connect to their output.
So I think stress is a huge one. It's been estimated that 90% of doctors' visits are due to stress related factors,
Yeah.
which is a huge number. But to me, the thing that's not spoken about is the endocrine disrupting chemicals in our environment, because we're all exposed to huge amounts of chemicals, whether it's in the air, the water, the food. And a big one is all the personal care products we slather our bodies with. I mean, so many of them are full of chemicals, and we've just accepted it. So what I often do is refer people to the environmental working group. Are you aware of them?
No, I'm not. Can you tell me more about that?
Okay, so
That's
this
interesting.
is an American not-for-profit organization
Okay.
that informs people about pollution and how to mitigate, pollution. And they have several very helpful things. One is an app called the Healthy Living app, which you can put on your smartphone, and you can actually scan products in the store before you buy them, and it gives you toxicity ratings. So
Oh,
if you
wow.
find out your regular shampoo is really toxic, you can scan around and find one that has a lower toxicity rating. And that way you can clean up your personal care products, your cleaning products, your laundry detergents, and that will help you clean up your environment at home. They also make guides on how to buy air filters and water filters. We're now at the point that we should be filtering our water. They have for the United States, they have done studies of the municipal water supplies in every zip code.
Yeah.
So you can actually look up your water supply by zip code and see what the contaminants are. Now, I'm in Canada, so unfortunately, it's not in Canada, it's the United States. But my daughter moved to New Jersey, so I looked up the water supply there and I was horrified that there were 13 contaminants that were way over, acceptable levels. And
Right.
some of them were things like chloroform, which is an anesthetic agent that I don't even think is used anymore, but it's in the water supply where she lives. And some of the chemicals there, another one was hexavalent chromium, which you might remember. Do you remember the movie Aaron Brockovich?
success.
She was a paralegal in California who discovered that the Pacific Gas Company was
Dumping sewage,
dumping
dumping chemicals.
dumping hexavalent chromium into the water. They had to shut that town down because they could not clean up the water supply. It was the biggest lawsuit in American history at that point,
Yeah.
$300 million.
Yeah, I remember that.
And a lot of people were dying of, cancer and so forth.
Yeah.
Well, that same chemical was in her water supply. Now, maybe it was
in New Jersey
in New Jersey,
in 2026.
Yes. So I ordered a reverse osmosis countertop air filter. I had it sent to her house. The next thing I did was a good air filter to go by her bedside. And, it's not like the air in Canada is any different. We just don't have as good measurements of what's going on in our water supply and air supply. But, the same chemicals are floating around.
That's really interesting because I had interviewed another doctor on my show. I think it was Healthy Dad, Sick Dad. And part of his book, he talked about the zero osmosis water. And so I looked it up on Amazon. I ordered myself one and, delivered here. And you basically fill it up with tap water. And then it runs through, like, instead of the one filter in your regular refrigerator, it runs through like 3 filters. And then the little jar has a filter on it. And my wife and I tasted the water. We're like, what in the world is this? Like, it was so different. And so now, I would say most of the time, not everything that we do is that way, but most of the time for our coffee, our tea, or our drinking water, we use the zero osmosis water. And it has radically changed the taste of water. And you can tell that it's much purer than anything I've ever tasted, even bottled water that you would buy in a store. It's much more pure. So that's interesting. What's the name of that app again? You mentioned this app, that
Healthy Living app.
the Healthy Living. I want to make sure we put that in the notes and links to it, because I think that's something that is like a low-hanging fruit, right? Because most of us have a smartphone and we can download the app and then we can scan products that, not only helps us with our fertility, especially if we've passed that age of fertility, if you're listening, but if you're in the middle of that and you want to make sure that you're, bringing a healthy human into the world, you also want to make sure you have healthy water, healthy environmental things, that the chemicals and products you're buying are not inducing these endocrine agents that can cause more and more problems. This is really good. I really appreciate that.
So it's the same thing that you do for fertility, you do for longevity, because I'm very interested in longevity. So it's okay. You've had your kids, but you want to live a long, healthy life so you could be a grandparent and a great grandparent.
Exactly. That's the goal. That's the goal. So let me ask you encourage people to think about their future health and fertility well before they're ready for a family. How does that same long-term thinking transform career success and life productivity? It's kind of like what we're just talking about.
Yeah, I mean, it's just improving your health, which can improve your energy, the way you think, your ideas. I mean, just think of yourself on a morning that you're feeling great versus a morning that you're exhausted because you didn't get enough sleep. And you want to produce something, you want to do something good. I mean, it's a no-brainer. You need to set yourself up for success.
Yeah. Many professionals delay family rest and self-care in the name of success. How does your work reveal about the biological cost of burnout? And how can people reverse it?
Yeah. So this reminds me of my mother used to always tell me when I was going through medical school, you're burning the candle at both ends. That was her
That was a badge of honor in school, right? That was between the students. That was like a badge of honor.
Yes, which is not great. It's not great. If you rely on burning the candle at both ends, it's like the turtle and the hare.
Exactly. Exactly.
So again, I think we have to think of our physical bodies first. And we tend to think, like, when it comes to these endocrine disrupting chemicals, most people don't realize it's a problem because actually our bodies are very good at getting rid of them.
Right.
But we're now being overwhelmed by them. So we're in a different space where our bodies have reached the maximum and they doesn't know what to do with the excess.
Yeah.
And a lot of these chemicals are called obesogens because the way the body deals with them is if it can't metabolize it, it'll envelop it in fat.
Yeah.
So it's one of the reasons that people are becoming more and more obese. So, when people ask me, and obviously they ask a doctor about weight loss all the time, even if that's not my specialty at all. But one of the first things I tell them is, listen, start cleaning up your home environment and get the chemicals out of there, and you'll have an easier time losing weight. Not that losing weight is ever really easy, but
Right.
you can make it easier.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's really important to, again, take this holistic view of our health because when you are, in America, we process foods so much, at least in the West. And my wife and I last year we had a chance to go to Rome and we had a chance to go to Paris. And when we were in Rome, we ate all kinds of pasta. We had
Mm,
gelatos at night. And we actually came back and we lost weight. We're
that's
like,
interesting.
how's that possible? Because I mean, not that we gorged ourselves, but we didn't, I can't say we held back. We always eat them in moderation, but we
Mhm.
ate a healthy portion of some of the pastas and the foods and pizza's totally different over there and everything else. But because they're using zero flour and the way the flour and the chemical, or not the chemicals, but the food is made and produced is so much more natural, we actually were losing weight eating some of the same things or even a little bit more than we would normally eat of some of those items like the pasta, gelato, and so on and so forth. And that was just amazing. And I think it's because of all of the chemicals and things that are in food. So, and it's frustrating because in the US, when you're really working on your diet, right? You see a nutritionist, you really work on your health, you're exercising, and you're still not losing it, then there's something else going on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think, we tend to look at overweight people and think, oh, it's their fault they eat too much. But that's no longer the case here. They're being affected by the environment, by the chemicals, the food itself. Pesticides are obesogens. And it's hard to eat completely organic. But the problem is also GMO foods. They're GMO in order to withstand pesticides. So
Yeah.
they're full of pesticides. And in Europe, they don't have GMO foods. That makes a huge difference. They've also banned many more chemicals than we have in North America.
Yeah.
So their air is cleaner. There's a lot of advantages to living in Europe.
I think we'll have some more trips over there and eat some more gelatos. So listen,
Absolutely.
if somebody wanted to build a daily high performance system and have it using your medical and lifestyle principles, what would be some of the core pillars?
Okay, so absolutely, you want a diet that's nutrient dense, that doesn't contain a lot of junk food and sugar. Sugar, unfortunately, is a killer. It shortens your life. Tastes so good, but you have to balance that against shortening your life. So, you need to address that. So, good diet, sleep, super important. Getting enough sleep. That so-called 8 hours. I'm not sure. I wonder what the statistics are, but I believe most of the population is getting way under 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
some people are very proud. Oh, I can manage on 4 hours, 5 hours. You're not
Right.
doing yourself any favors doing
Right.
that.
Right. I discovered in another discussion and some other books that I've read that in the last 2 hours of that 8 hour period are some of the most important things that the body does in restorative health. Whether it's the brain being flushed out or the reorganization of our, what we went through the other day, or just the reorganization of our mindsets and the physiology of our brains, that a lot of that happens in the later REM cycles that we go through if we're sleeping 8 hours. So if we never sleep 8 hours, then we never experience those regenerative types of things that our body will naturally do. And it's almost, again, another book that I looked at was talking about the kind of like the circadian rhythm, or the idea that in our eyes we have receptors. Like most time we think of our eyes, we think of cones and rods, right?
Mhm.
Being able what we can see and then what we can peripherally see. But there's also elements in our eyes that, based on the light that's coming in, tells the body whether it's daytime or nighttime.
Yeah.
right? And
That's
and,
right.
and that tells the body, if it's nighttime, produce melatonin and produce all the other chemicals and things that you naturally need to get a good night's sleep. But if we're burning the candle at both ends, going back to that sense, and we got the lights on, that light is telling our eyes, hey, it's daytime. Don't
Exactly.
prepare to go to sleep. Don't prepare the body for this. And so when you do lay down to go to sleep, you're having a harder time now trying to get some sleep because you've told your body it's not nighttime, it's daytime. And so the body is struggling through the circadian rhythms of how to process and get some good sleep. So that becomes even a different health challenge as well. So there's so many different aspects to that.
Yes, and I think the fact that we have so many people who need to work at night or need shifts that are constantly changing, that is a health problem, and
Yeah.
it does stress the body, and it needs to be addressed. Now, sometimes you have no choice, right? But
Right.
you need to work around it and to, try to catch up when you can.
Now, I got a couple more questions for you because this has been a really interesting conversation. You've taken me down some roads that I didn't think we are going to go down, but which I'm really enjoying. Your book isn't just about having children, right? It's about creating a healthier future generation. How do you define productivity when you zoom out to a lifetime and a legacy?
I think you have to look at how you contributed to the world, what your world contribution was. And it's not that everybody has to make world changing decisions that, but in your small way, whether it's production of poetry or whether it's something world changing that you're producing, is being able to put yourself out there, put your ideas out there, and be happy with it and be
Right.
satisfied with it. I
Right.
mean, that's what I would call productivity because it's on so many levels. As I say, it could be producing children or it could be producing artwork or books,
Right.
you know.
But we still need to remain healthy. And I think it really boils down to a really important question is, who am I and why am I here? And what's my purpose? And once you really feel like you have a good handle on that, then you basically you have to have the energy and the wherewithal to be able to do that. Because if you're wealthy but your health is bad, then you're going to spend all your wealth trying to get healthy. But if if you're not as wealthy but you're healthy, then you can enjoy the little wealth that you do have even more than somebody who's really, really wealthy.
Absolutely. I agree with you.
So let me ask you this last question before two more questions here. And that is again, what is the name of that app? I just want to make sure we put that in there again.
Healthy Living app. And
Healthy Living app.
the website is ewg.org, Environmental Working Group.
Okay, excellent, excellent. And then where can people learn more about you? Where can they get your book? Where can they, if they want to follow you and get more insights into things that you teach, where can they learn more about you?
So my book isn't out yet. It's going to be launched in June in Dallas at a conference, and I'm going to have several book launches. I'm going to do some pre-launches and some real book launches
Excellent.
in the meantime. So it's not available yet, but soon I'm going to have a pre-launch sale of the ebook, probably in the
Okay.
next month or so. They can find out on my website, which is drmarinaobgyn.com. It's drmarinaobgyn.com. There's a wait list. You can sign up for the book. I also do a weekly blog on fertility issues, which they can sign up for as well. I'm appearing on podcasts like yours, and I put those on my website too, if people want to have a look. I also have a Facebook page, Dr. Marina OBGYN, and I am starting to work on my Instagram, which is dr.marina.obgyn. So it's all very similar. And yes, there's lots of information available. And yes, I really encourage people to take a look at this.
Excellent,
Right.
excellent. Well, this has been a really great conversation, and thank you for being a guest on the Productivity Smarts podcast and sharing your wisdom, really helping us to all live a healthy life and create healthy humans.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
If you're enjoying the content and finding it valuable, we would appreciate it if you could take a moment and leave us a review. Your feedback is important to us and helps us reach a wider audience. If you leave us a 5-star review, it would mean the world to us. Not only does it help us improve the podcast, but it also helps us attract more sponsors and grow our community. Thank you again for your support and for listening to the Productivity Smarts podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to Productivity Smarts, where we help you achieve your goals and live your best life. We hope you've gained valuable insights and actionable strategies to boost your productivity and increase your happiness and fulfillment. Remember to apply what you've learned and keep striving towards your goals. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to our podcast for more inspiring episodes and expert advice from our host, Gerald J. Leonard. Until next time, keep pushing forward and unleashing your productivity smarts.